Hello and welcome to today's webinar, How to Remodel Your Legacy C-Stores for Less, presented by CSP and GSP, a retail solutions provider that specializes in retail branding, marketing, and store-level execution. I'm Steve Holtz, Content Director for CSP, and I'll be moderating today's event. Before we get started, I want to walk through a couple of housekeeping items. You can interact with our speakers by typing in questions at any time using the Q&A widget on your screen. We will answer questions live at the end of the presentation. And you can also customize your view of the webinar by moving and resizing the windows on the webinar console. If you're experiencing any technical issues, please use the Help button at the bottom right of your screen. Please note that you may need to enable Flash on your computer in order to optimize the webinar audio and slide deck. We are also recording today's session, and we will email you when the recording is available. Now, our topic for today will focus on how to remodel your legacy C-stores for less, and I will pass it over to Stephen Cohen, Vice President of Design Services at GSP, who will kick off today's session. Stephen, it's all yours.
Thanks, Steve. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining our webinar this afternoon. My name is Stephen Cohen. I will be your host for this very informative discussion. As Steve said, what we're going to focus on today is how to remodel your legacy C-stores for less. A little bit about me before we get started. I have been with GSP 8 years now, and my previous background, I was Vice President, Creative Director for major department stores, including Rich's, Lazarus, and Macy's. Today I'm going to introduce solutions for updating your legacy stores. It's everything from concept development to site-specific impact to store rollouts. It's about thinking smart, it's about saving your money, and it's about putting the emphasis in the store where you want the customer to see it. So almost every C-store chain has their new, shiny, beautiful store, and I've got to tell you, I've walked a number of them with our clients across the country, but at the same time, they've got their old legacy stores. And those are the stores we usually look at last. Those are the stores that most of our clients don't want to show off, and we know why. And ultimately, you know, what I would think is, from a brand perspective, what you guys would want to drive is consistency. But creating consistency with your legacy stores that probably haven't been updated for 20 years, and the new shiny store is difficult, it's expensive, but it's much easier than you think, and it's less expensive than you think as well. So today, our panelists for our roundtable discussion, we've got Joe DiStefano, our Director of Visual Merchandising for GSP. Unfortunately, Scott Birchfield, due to an illness in his family, will not be able to make the webinar today, so I'm going to pinch hit for Scott. And then we've got Craig Newhoff, our Director of New Business at GSP, and he will kick off the discussion.
Great. Thanks, Stephen. So I'm going to start off by going through a poll that I saw at CRU in February, which was they asked the question, what changes will you make to your business within 2018? And within that room, that poll, 72% said that they would remodel or refresh their stores. And so that's what we're kind of talking about, is how do you go about remodeling and refreshing your stores, and so to make sure that it doesn't break the bank, so to speak. What we're hoping that you come away with is you know, a process for reimaging and remodeling your legacy type stores. We're going to go through two case studies that we've worked on. One is On the Fly, which is brand and evolution and creation, so the start of a brand all the way through. And we're going to also go through our legacy format, which is taking a very nice, beautiful store and translating that store, parts of that image, to those legacy stores, so that you can make sure that the legacy stores do fit along with the marketplace or that shiny new store. Again, one of the things that I want to reiterate is, I wanted to mention was, in the first 8 weeks of 2018, nearly 2,000 stores changed hands. And year to date, 3,800 stores have changed hands. And so what does that mean? What are they doing with those stores? How are they rebranding them? And how are they doing it without breaking the bank, so to speak? And how can that make a huge impact on your stores as well? And so from that, I'm going to send it back over to Stephen, who's going to talk to you about the first case study, which is on the fly.
All right. So thank you, Craig. A while back, and if Scott Birchfield was here today, he would talk about this in a little bit more detail. But a while back, Scott and the GSP team, we walked stores with him in Tampa, in Akron, and Dayton, Ohio. And what Scott was asking us to do was walk a series of his older legacy stores. And some of these stores were branded. Some of these stores were not even branded. Some stores just had the name on the fly outside of the building. But from a brand perspective, as we know it and we discuss it, they were not really branded. They could have almost been anybody's stores. So Scott and our GSP team and I, we walked these stores in Tampa to begin, and we started to talk about the vision for his brand. And the only thing that he outlined to us that he wanted to maintain was the name. There was obviously equity in On the Fly in that name. He wanted to maintain it as the name of the store going forward. But that was it. So basically what he asked us to do was he asked us to create a new brand for him. So with that, we went to work on the creating of this On the Fly brand. And when I say On the Fly brand, it was everything that touches the customer experience, from a graphics package to the way the logo would look on the outside of the building to the customer experience once you walk in that door. So again, we studied his stores and walked to lots of stores in Akron and Dayton, Tampa, and then also West Palm Beach, and more recently, Jacksonville. So we are right now working on a store in Dayton, his store 590, and we just completed about a week ago a total refresh, rebrand of that store. So that is the first store that we are 99% complete with and finished, and now we're starting to roll out this package to several other stores in both the West Palm Beach and the Jacksonville markets, and then we will go back and hit Akron. So what I'd like to do, in the next 20 minutes is share the work, share a fly-through that we've created for him, and talk to you a little bit about our process and how we begin working on a project like this. So, of course, we put a team together at GSP, and what I tell our clients, and the first thing we do is we create a mood board. And within that mood board, we outline all of the brand elements that we want to communicate to our client. And what we normally do is we normally present probably 3, sometimes 4 concepts to our client based on what their ask is. And in this case, I believe what we presented to Scott and his team was 4 different concepts. What I'm sharing with you and what's on the screen right now is the concept that he chose. So it's all about red, it's all about a gray interior, it's all about this graphic kind of wing motif that we created for him. It's a very simple font that we're going to use, and it's all about creating a background in his store where his product becomes the hero and the graphics support the theme. So with that, the first thing you do is logo study, logo study, logo study. So we went to work on the logo, and we presented many different versions of the logo to the Giant Oil Group. And what you're looking at right now is the finished On the Fly logo. It is the finished mark that is on the front of the building and tied into his store. And one thing that through this exercise that we learned, there's a slight angle to the logo, and we call it the 12-degree lift. And what that really is, it's that same 12 degrees that an airplane, a commercial aircraft, would take off, as they're departing the airport. That's a comfortable kind of way that a commercial aircraft would take off, and that is the same degree. So, that for us was, from a design point of view, that's adding purpose to this. And that's adding a reason. So whenever you guys see this on-the-fly logo on the front of the buildings or throughout the stores, you're going to see it on this slight angle of 12 degrees. So the next step in this process is taking what is a 2D design to a 3D design. So we looked at lighting, we looked at 3D, we looked at substrates, we looked at every different part of this logo from every different angle to come up with the final logo. And one thing that we think about a lot is not only what the logo is going to look like on the front of the building during the day, but how is it going to look at night? Lighting is crucial here. How it's going to be lit, how the customer will see it as he or she is driving up to the pump. So we took a lot of that into consideration as well. And then from that point, what we started to do was we started to apply the logo to the front of the building. And this is not a real store. This is a concept store that we came up with. But what it gives you is a little bit of an idea of what the logo is going to look like on a real store. So you see a little bit of that. And as I said before, the study really continued to what is it going to look like at night, how is it going to be lit, et cetera, et cetera. So once we completed work there, we then moved inside the store. And what I'm just going to give you a look at are some of the categories that we designed working with Scott and the Giant Oil team. So we started to lay out the store. We started to think about the reality of his business. And basically it is really all about the business. And we started to put affordable design packages together. And when I say affordable design packages, what I really mean is if he and his team had a very large budget for a flagship store, then the brick that you're seeing on the wall could be real brick. If his budget was less for one of his other stores, his lower volume stores, then we don't need to invest in real brick on the back wall of this coffee area. That could either be a faux brick of some kind or a printed brick. The ultimate idea and what you want to accomplish is you want to accomplish that same visual look when the customers walk through the store. So basically, what you're seeing here is a quick snapshot of his coffee area. We named it Lofty Joe, coming off of this whole on-the-fly theme, as well as designing a graphic to support that. And then moving to the beer cave, this was a very important part of the store, took that theme further, developed this idea of the wing coming off the hops, and named his beer cave Flying Hops. So that what we're doing is we're building a brand, we're building a vocabulary, we're building a story for him. And then very high level, we started to look at how this brand then could impact all of his wayfinding messages through the store. So you see the coffee area, the beer area, then beverages above the cooler, and then fountains. So we started to lay out what all of those graphics could look and feel like. And then we then took it to more collateral, and we started to look at the cups, which are really a very important part of the brand in terms of these cups leave the store. These cups sit on your desk during the day, and what they do is they show up your logo. It's free advertising, so the cup is really, really important. And you know what I kind of associate a cup with for a convenience store is almost what a shopping bag does for a specialty retail store. It's really free advertising. It's a way to get your name out there. And God knows I see enough Starbucks cups and et cetera, on our people's desks during the day, or other convenience store cups. So anyway, a little bit on the cups. And we didn't stop there because Another part of creating the brand is the collateral. So Scott asked us to also think about, and we would have done this anyway, what does the associate wear? What does an apron look like? What does a shirt look like for the guys? What does a carry-out bag look like? And of course, the cups. So not only thinking about what that logo looks like when it's 5 feet by, let's say, 7 feet on the front of the building, we also think about what it looks like on apparel, what it looks like on a business card, what it looks like on a cup, what it looks like really big, and what it looks like very small. Because if you can design a logo that works big, works small, readable, you know you've hit a home run. So with that, you know, we took this whole 360-degree look at the store, the collateral, the categories, all of that stuff. And then we get a call from the Giant Oil offices, and Scott's on the phone, and he says, hey, stop, I need a little bit more help on the logo. And I will tell all of you, and you've all been through this, we invested a tremendous amount of time on it, but what the Giant Oil group wanted to do was just some minor tweaks. So with that, we took the logo study back to the team at GSP, and we gave Scott and his group 5 other designs. So the logo that you're seeing on the top left that's circled is the logo that we currently were using for all of this. Well, so then what we did was we presented to Scott the logo number 2, which we're calling Simple Wing, and then we designed a little bit more, with these kind of rays coming off the F, and that's number 3, Speed Wing. We then took it even further and designed what we call the Angel Wing, and then went to number 5, the Full Wing, and then number 6, a little bit more classic kind of aviation wing. So with this new study, we were actually in Akron, I believe, where we met with Scott and his team and presented these new 5 versions. And at the same time, he had his home team in Tampa on the phone, and it was a WebEx, and we were sharing these new ideas. And we did a little bit of back and forth, a little bit of around the circle, and we decided, after a little bit of conversation, that the number 1 wing was the one that they wanted to go with. The number 1 design was the winner, and that's the circled one, with some modifications. And that is the strokes on the left side of the F we made all even, so we didn't have that zigzag kind of look. And the logo then became a home run. Everybody was happy with it. And the point I want to make is we wound up in a better place. And we wound up in a better place working with the client on this. And actually, back at GSP, we all felt that that final design was a better design than it was before making this change. So great teamwork. It was great working with Scott and his group on that. And now the final logo as applied to the building you're seeing here. It's not where we are on his 590 store. I'm going to show you that in a moment, but it is very close. All right. And this is the 590 store in Dayton, and this would be his final hero logo. So the on the fly is in the white on a red oval or disc, and then there is a very neutral gray behind it. So this is actually a look at what is front of store 590 looks like. And I will tell you, if I showed you a before and after, major change. And we did this on a budget. We worked smart, we worked efficiently, we worked fast. Once that logo was in an approved mark, we then worked with our team to execute it in 3D and to execute the lighting. And in terms of updates for the front of the building, really it was cosmetic, but it was the right kind of cosmetic treatment, the right kind of lighting that supports this new look of On the Fly. So this store is actually almost complete in Dayton as we speak. Now, one thing that's critical as we do all of this kind of work with our clients is the kind of 3D fly-through that you're seeing here. What it does is it really tells the story. The designers start with elevation drawings of the particular kind of store or the particular architecture of the store, but the fly-through is really a nice way of creating what that customer experience is all about. So what you're seeing here is that we always start on the outside of the store to look at it from the way the customer looks at it, but you're seeing just a look at the coffee area. So and as we move through the store, you could see some of the substrates we've used, the faux brick here, as a matter of fact, some of the signage, the POP. We're now in the fountain area. And the whole thought process...
Is everybody seeing the fly-through? All right. I think there might be some issues with that.
So the thought process was to keep it a very neutral color palette and accents of red on the end caps, but a lot of gray, very clean, so that when the store is fully merchandised, that merchandise and the POP really pops. So that was the thought process working with the Giant Oil team. All right, and now what you're seeing is the cash wrap, and then as you enter the store, you see a reinforcement of the brand. So one thing I will also note is that working on these on-the-fly stores, there are some stores that are really, really tiny. There are some stores that are kind of in the mid-size range, some stores that are larger, and some stores that even look like a truck stop. So they're really large. So this brand is being rolled out to the smallest store and actually the largest stores that they've got in their arsenal of stores. So it's got to work for many different stores, as well as some concept stores that we're creating with the team right now, and raise and rebuild stores. So I've gone through this part of this case study on how we create and evolve a brand working with a legacy store. So I want to just do a very quick poll with you, and I've got a question for you guys. So if you would want to evolve your brand, where would you start? And as I've walked through many, many stores with our clients across the country, some of our clients really don't know where to start. They've got their beautiful flagship store, but they're really not sure how to impact the legacy store. So do you start with your name? Do you start with your logo? Do you start by evaluating your current brand? Or do you think about all of the above? So let's take a moment and think about these questions, and then look at the results. Everybody voting on your A, B, C, or D answers? So what do we have? So we've got 0% for the name, logo, about 6%, current brand, 44.1%, or all of the above, 50%. Well, I am very proud of this group. This is pretty amazing. So yeah, of course it's all of the above, and that's what the 50% says. But great that a lot of you also voted on evaluating your current brand, because it really is about your brand and it's about impacting your business. And when you could elevate your brand or create a brand in this case and change out what that legacy store looked like to a really updated version of what your brand could look like in that store, you've made some major progress and will eventually, very soon, impact sales. So, and it's really all about sales, selling product, and that is our part one case study on the fly. All right. So with that, and I'm trying to save some time for questions and answers at the end, I'm going to move into a project that we worked on with Come and Go. And this is actually a really, really great example of how a company has this amazing marketplace store that is fresh, it's brand right, it's new, it sparkles, product looks great, fabulous sign package, and really resonates with the customer. And in this case, Come and Go also has a series of 5,000 square foot stores that are really, really very nice. But in their arsenal of stores, there are some of the older legacy stores that need a bit of an update. So with that, what we did with this group is we walked the marketplace stores, we walked their, what I'm going to call their 5,000 square foot stores, and we also walked many of their legacy stores. And what we did was we tried to figure out a formula by which we would infuse into the legacy stores some of the newness that we saw in the marketplace stores. So we coined this bridging your brand, and it's really creating a connection, creating a consistent customer journey from your best, shiniest, newest store to your oldest store. So what we decided to do is take elements and analyze the elements in the marketplace store and decide which of these elements we would impact the legacy store with. So in essence, it's really about the strengthening of your brand, and it's about creating a consistent message for the customers. And in a lot of ways, it's easier than you think, and it doesn't have to be as expensive as you think something like this would be. Craig, any comments on this?
No, the only comment I would say is this is exactly what we were talking about by taking versions and parts of the design and translating those to your legacy stores that you wouldn't necessarily do all of that work to.
So with that, we walked the marketplace stores, and this is an example of one of the stores that we walked with, the Come and Go group, and we started to analyze why the store looked so fresh, why it looked so good. So, you know, it was the lighting, and it was the color palette, it was the wayfinding, it was the way they signed the cooler area. It was looking at fountain and looking at coffee, and it was also looking at some of the accessory pieces. But, you know, there's a lot of discipline that goes to keeping this store really clean, really tidy, and really fresh looking. And we discussed all of those too, because you can infuse newness into a legacy store, but if you don't also create those disciplines to keep it clean, keep it fresh, and keep it looking really great, well, you know, that's part of it. You need to do that as well. So anyway, we walked the marketplace stores, and then we started to define what our formula could be. So a look here, looking at the legacy stores, they looked okay, they looked pretty good, but there was an opportunity to make a brand connection. There was an opportunity to to call out the areas of the store in a fresher way. There was an opportunity to clean up the area of the cash wrap. It was an opportunity to brand the end caps so that the merchandising in the end caps stood for something. So with that, what we did was we identified the elements in the marketplace stores that we would like to then infuse into the legacy stores. So we looked at the cashier shrouds. We looked at the dimensional lettering. We looked at, of course, that large, beautiful red ampersand that hangs from the ceiling. We looked at hanging wood elements, subway tiles, even the lottery ticket display that they had in here. We looked at pretty much every bit of the store, color palette, how the communication to the customer came off, strength of type, POP package, etc. And then we decided as a team which of these elements we would then infuse into the older legacy stores. So what I'm sharing with you right now are just some very quick SketchUp renders of some of the elements that we pulled out of the marketplace store to put into the legacy stores. Now, what you're seeing here is work in progress. It's not finished color palette, but again, we were working with grays, black, and red, keeping it very simple. We couldn't do that beautiful three-dimensional ampersand here, so what we did was we did a very large ampersand with their tagline where the ampersand means more, where and means more, and we created that same customer experience in terms of brand and in terms of calling out the food service area. So go to the next slide.
Again, making a huge impact on the store with minimal materials.
Right. And with the minimal materials came a study. So we studied, again, for the stores that have the higher volume, how you impact with more expensive. For the stores that are the lower volume, less expensive, how do you create that same kind of impact? So what you're seeing here is a little bit of a drop-down ceiling above the grill and the coffee area. You're seeing a little bit of the fountain area in the background, a little bit of food as well. And then we'll go to the next one. And then we started to lay out that same kind of signage package above the coolers. So again, this is all work in progress. It's not the final work. But what it does do is it starts to share with you our thought process and the evolution by which we approach this work. So what I'm going to show you here is just a very quick fly-through on this store. This is very, very, very quick. And you have to hit play so that you could see the fly-through on your computers.
So again, this is just taking ideas from the marketplace design and transferring them to the legacy stores and using minimal materials to so you're not breaking the bank and making sure that you have the same look as that marketplace store.
Now, one other thing I just want to add, with this exercise, in one of the stores that we impacted, and we impacted several of these stores, one move was just very, very simple, and it was really just angling the gondolas. Because when we walked into the store, what we felt was that you didn't have a clear view from front of store to the back of the stores. So what we did was we angled the gondolas. And Joe, you may have a comment here in terms of what the elevations look like and the fly-through and the finished product.
Yes, this is Joe DiStefano. And yeah, when we did these fly-throughs, we pretty much knew what the store was going to look like when we got done. And even though we knew that, we were still shocked at how much it really looked like our actual fly-throughs when we completed this. So the cash register area, there you see there was a banner up there, and then now we painted it the gray, and now that's a decal that we applied up there. You look down at the cash register, and that whole top is cleaned up.
Right. So the cash wrap on the left, to Joe's point, is the older cash wrap. Cash wrap on the right is the newer, refreshed cash wrap. So it was cleanup, but for very little, we were able to impact what that brand is. So when the customer walks into that store, they understand it, they get it, and if they shop the better marketplace stores, they see the connection from color palette to messaging to their brand mark. Joe? Okay.
Okay, this area where you can now, we put a shroud around the fountain to hide the ice. That door is removable. We also added the "and fountain" on the back tile wall. That's an actual subway tile wall they did in this one particular store. They gave it a shot and tried it. So as you can see, we just cleaned up that whole area just super quickly in very minimal amount of work.
Okay, and now we're going to move to coffee and grill. Joe?
Yeah, this area again, so as you walked into the store, you know, as you look on the picture on the before, you didn't know that the roller grill and the coffee were over there. So again, we took the elements from the
marketplace,
their other stores, the marketplace stores, and we started to apply the boards in there. Now, we took a different approach with the "and grill" and the "and coffee." That wasn't something that was in there, but it was a way for us to give an identity to finding those things in that store. And as you can see on the back wall, we started with the "and dairy" and the letters that went across the back of that. So there was a lot of impact just on a few pieces.
So what this led to is, for this particular store, there was a bit of invention, but it's not deviation from the brand. The brand is still top of mind. It's just creating other pieces that work in this kind of space with this kind of merchandise flow with the same brand elements to call out these areas. All right, and the cooler wall.
Yeah, and then you can see as the cooler wall, you know, applying the colors in it and then doing a three-dimensional letter where we actually made the energy and water a different color than the ampersand, so it stood out. But it again, we were able to impact this entire store, so everything was consistent with their marketplace store. You know, all of the pieces, the elements we pulled from one, we were able to apply to this. But again, as a a lower priced option for them to do these smaller stores.
So where that gets me is what we've created for our clients for these projects is something that we call good, better, best. It's a strategy that we have at GSP. We don't have to break the bank with these kind of brand changes for your legacy store and upgrades for your legacy store. What we do is we put packages together for you. We can custom the packages working with you so it's easy for you. It's not as hard as you think. But your flagship store, you could spend more money in. Your high volume stores, you could spend more money in. The lesser traffic stores, you could spend less money in. But at the end of this experience, what you've done is you've created a consistency from store to store. So what we like to do is when we are presenting to our clients the concept, where the education kind of comes into play here is we will present to them and a group like you many different ways to impact each area. You could have it lit. You don't have to have it lit. You could do it with printed material, or you could do it with three-dimensional material. So what we say is invest more in the high-volume opportunities, less in others. We help with the versioning of this kind of thing, and ultimately what it does is it helps you control your budget and impacting the stores from a consistent look where you don't have to break the bank. So one example is you can do real brick in one store, you could do faux brick in another store, or you could do printed brick. It all looks the same, but costs you a different amount of money, and all will make impact in terms of updating your legacy stores.
So usually the good the good looks are very efficient, cost effective, and very good for a while, easy to change to a better or a best.
So now we're going to open the session up for questions from our audience, and anybody have any questions?
Yeah, thanks very much, guys. Really good stuff. It's great to see what you did with Come and Go, them being our Retail Leader of the Year this year, to get some insight into how they've taken their new builds into their legacy stores. Really good information. So we'll move to the Q&A portion of the presentation now. And as a reminder, you can still ask questions. Just use the Q&A widget on your screen to submit your question to our speakers. And we'll get started. Really, you've got some good questions on both of the test cases that you ran through here. And we'll start with the Come and Go stores, since that's what we were talking about. Talk about the ampersand and how you brought that to life in the stores. What went into that and getting it up on the ceiling?
Oh, well, I will tell you, the ampersand that I showed was already in the marketplace store. So bravo to the team that did it. We did not impact that particular store. What we did was we pulled inspiration from that store. But that was done to look almost like a drop-down ceiling above their food service area. But we did not do that. But a brilliant, brilliant solution and really interesting way to take your brand mark and really put it to some great use.
Yeah, really good. Got a couple questions about the timing that some of these things take, especially once you're actually in the store putting in the new signage or the new looks. Are you closing those stores for any amount of time, and if so, how much?
Well, I'll answer that, and I'll let Joe answer this too. We work with our clients so that we don't have to stop the business, because the business is very important to you. So we can work around that so that parts of the store stay open during this, parts of the store are partitioned off where we're doing the work. So if it's something that you if you wanted to close your store, well, we could certainly do that. But if you want to keep your business going, certainly we can work with you, keep your business going, and before you know it, you'll have a fully updated store. Joe, you might want to talk a little bit to timing of how long this takes.
The Come and Go stores took probably less than a day for us to do with a crew of 3 or 4 people. And in either case, Come and Go or the giant oil stores, we did not close. The client did not close the stores. We did the work during the day. We targeted the low peak times of the store, and we worked around the customers that were in there. But we didn't close any of these stores when we remodeled them.
From beginning of process, where, for example, for, say, Giant Oil or even the Come and Go, from the beginning of the process to, and when I say the beginning of the process, let's call it laying out the store, figuring out the plan, ordering all the materials, taking care of the printing, the substrates, lighting, etc. I would say probably 4 to 6 weeks safe. But then to Joe's point, in terms of installation, the store could stay open.
Nice. So a few questions about the on-the-fly example that you gave. So when you're creating a fresh logo like that, do you consider the market that they're in? How does that fit into what you create?
Love that question. Of course we do. And as a matter of fact, one of the things we do, I just would have loved to have shared it with you, is we dissect the market based on the competition. We then take the logo of our choice, or as we're developing the logos. We like to position that logo on a page with all of the competitors in that market. It's a great study. And what you see is the colors that all your competition, are doing. So, you may be in a sea of red logos. And how do you change, or how do you tweak that logo so that it really stands out? But what we did actually for this on-the-fly logo is we looked at it in all of the markets that Giant Oil was going to evolve this brand in, and made sure that the on-the-fly final mark really resonated, popped off that page, looked as fresh, as professional, as good, if not better, than all of the competition. So great question, and this is a very important part of our process.
The other part to that is creating somewhat of an icon. Nowadays, social media, it's very important in order to be able to translate that brand to social media and have somewhat of an icon. And so that's what we tend to do, is kind of look at those logos and make sure that those can translate and kind of sit on their own, so to speak.
So to Craig's point, in terms of icons, the wing then takes on that kind of thought process.
Nice, good stuff. So you talked a little bit about trying to keep part of the store open while you're going through this remodel process. How do things like food safety and traffic flow and just all the elements of keeping a store flowing measure into that? What kind of planning goes into it?
Joe, I'm going to let you answer this, but I'm going to start from my vantage point. It really depends what the plan is. So if for example, we know we're going to impact food service, we map it out. We put a complete production schedule together. If the store has lower traffic in those areas during the night, well, then we figure out how we're going to make that happen, how we could work in those lower traffic times. But we map it all out on a production schedule. We curtain off parts of the store that are being worked on to keep other parts as clean as possible. The crew is totally professional on top of every part of what they're working on, and we really work on basically the parts of the store at the smartest times during the day with the lowest traffic going into the store, so that we could keep the business flowing and the merchandise being sold. Joe, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, just to Stephen's point, when we were in those areas, we made sure that they were covered. We worked with the team in the store. If there was food out, they were at the end of their shift, they would take the food in, and we would work in between our shift and when the food was there, and we covered everything with plastic and made sure that we weren't impacting those areas.
Very good. So there's several questions about the cost, but I don't think that's really I assume you're not going to go too far into detail there, but how do you go about limiting the cost or keeping costs down, whether it's one store or 100 stores?
This is Craig, and I'll take a stab at that. I mean, usually the way we work with our customers is putting together a scope of work in a sense, and really understanding the project. Again, when you're talking about translating to legacy type stores, you're talking about materials that are fairly inexpensive. If you're looking to just make a fairly quick impact, sometimes it can be just about wallpaper. Sometimes it's just about paint. So it really just depends on the scope of work. And the other side of it is we also do what I like to call design with execution in mind, and that's really important because essentially what you want to make sure is whatever you're designing, not only can you execute at the store, but your store personnel can actually execute the program as well. So that also does have a huge bearing on keeping costs down.
So to Craig's point about the scope of work, basically there are 3 parts to it. And the first part, as illustrated here, is creating the concept. So we usually price that out separately, and it really depends on the vision too. And are we creating a full brand? Are we just doing a category reimage project, or is it a minor store remodel? Because bottom line is what we can create is the total store or a portion of the store. So the first thing we do is we address the concept piece and and attach a price tag to that. Then we move into site-specific impact. So we will write an SOW for impacting the store, the specific store, with that concept idea. So the first concept is done with the idea of it rolling into many different kinds of stores, many different shapes, many different sizes. The SOW that has to do with the site-specific is specific to that store. It's creating a prototype store. It's creating a store lab. And then we also, at the end of this process, once the client is really happy with the store that we've created, we create a rollout package. And it is not as expensive as you might think. But that rollout package is determined. Are we doing 20 stores? Are we doing 50 stores? Or are we doing 100 stores? So there is economy of scale. It's based on what your scope is, what you want to handle when, but we can put packages together. And going back to the whole good, better, best strategy, the good, better, best strategy is all about creating a budget that will work for you.
Very good. So to that point, there's a question here. Is the process turnkey once you guys have it designed, or do you guys stay with the redesign and the remodeling through the stores as you go down the line, or is it sort of handed over to the retailer?
No, it's total turnkey. So it's concept to store level execution. The beauty of that is you don't have to hire anybody else to create the work in the store. And part of the strength there is when we design with store level execution in mind. So very important, great question, and that leads to a really great result in your store.
It also enables us to be able to react a lot faster. We're not waiting on anybody else.
All right. You had the survey question in your presentation about what you would look at first if you were looking to remodel. And to that end, kind of going to the very basic of this, how do you get started in this process? What's the first step?
Well, the first step is really to understand the goal and walking stores. And I will tell you, solutions happen when client and a company like GSP, when we walk the stores together, because it's at that point that we are educating each other. There are things that sometimes the client wouldn't think about that we think about, and vice versa. So store walks are crucial to this process if possible. And once we get started with the concept work, and let's say we're going to impact a store that we didn't walk, what we'll then do is we will send a survey team to that specific store, take measurements of everything that we're going to impact in the store, and then roll out that concept to that store. So it starts by walking stores together and understanding the end goal.
Okay. Can you talk a little about timeline? How long might this process take?
Okay, so if we're going to create a concept, this is what we tell most clients. We're going to probably, after we understand what the goal is in terms of what you want to impact, and let's say this is a brand new concept, coming up with logo, coming up with name, coming up with total graphics package, how it will affect the store, 15 to 20 business days is basically what we say for concept development. And then what's delivered is a package that not only shows you what your new logo looks like, but it shows you how it interacts with the rest of the store and a little bit of the customer experience.
Great. So good stuff. I think we're through most of our questions. Any closing comments?
Yes, I do have some closing comments. Take advantage of this whole idea of good, better, best in your thought process, because it really is important in terms of how you can control your budget. We like to think about innovation. We like to use technology and materials count. Really, really important, so that you could stretch that dollar as far as you want to stretch it in terms of making the right decisions on materials as you roll out this new brand. Smart design matters, and what I mean by that is we like to be as efficient. We design with purpose so that the work we do will work seamlessly in the store. And versioning. If we need to version based on size of the store, we design with the whole idea of modular in mind. And really, it's all about the customer journey. It's about your business, and it's about thinking smart to affect the bottom line, because we're all in this to make money, and you're in this to create a brand that is consistent from your best stores to your legacy stores. And with that, also, it's about creating loyalty, and it's about creating a customer that wants to come back, wants to shop your store, is familiar with it, and deserves a consistent experience throughout the various stores that you own. So that is a little bit of how I would summarize this.
Great, very good. Craig, Stephen, Joe, thanks very much for your time today. Really good information. That concludes today's webinar, and as a reminder, we'll send out an email with an on-demand version of today's presentation. And on behalf of our sponsor, GSP, thank you so much for attending. Have a great afternoon.